Hello, YouTube family. Thanks for tuning in. And by all means, if you like these videos, please like, please subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications if you'd like. But again, I'm hoping to reach 25 subscribers by the end of the first quarter this year. That's my current baby step goal. So please, if you like the videos, please subscribe. If you like them, talk to a friend or a family member, see if they want to subscribe as well. This episode is dealing with the Biden administration. And, when Biden was running for president, you had Donald Trump referring to him as Sleepy Joe Biden, talking about him as low energy, which Donald Trump's called a lot of people low energy. It's just one of the few words he knows. One of the few word groups, I guess he knows. But Biden has gotten off to a rather slow start. Biden has 9 appointees confirmed for his administration at this point in time. Trump had 14, Obama had 15. Obama had passed a couple of pieces of signature legislation by this time. I mean, right now we're towards the end of February. It's like the 25th or 26th of February, a month that has 28 days. We're almost at the end of February, and Obama had passed prior to February. In his first term, he passed the Lilly Ledbetter Act, his first piece of legislation. His second large piece of legislation was the Obama stimulus package, which passed on February 17th of his first term. Biden's only passage of legislation so far is a waiver allowing his Pentagon chief to serve, which is nothing. It's something that doesn't take any work to get accomplished. Biden's COVID relief bill, meanwhile, is on pace to reach his desk by mid to late March. So we're towards the end of February. Around a month from now, maybe the signature thing that Biden was talking about leading into his administration, getting this COVID relief bill package done, perhaps will be on his desk by mid-March, maybe a little bit beyond mid-March. I mean, Biden's had to deal with some slowdowns. I mean, his predecessor, Donald Trump, was very delaying in the transition process. Normally, the transition begins almost immediately after an election. I mean, when Trump won, Obama's White House really didn't delay on beginning the transition process. Trump was slow to get his transition team put together, but once they were together, the Obama White House worked with them to make sure they had the information they needed to be able to assume leadership. They never assumed any quality leadership, but that's beside the point. And for Biden, his stimulus package has to be passed through reconciliation, which is a slower process than if you just had enough members in Congress to get the votes that you needed to pass it. As it is, it's got to pass through reconciliation because most likely there will not be a single Republican vote on his stimulus package, and so it's going to depend on Democrats passing it with their slim majority. Biden early on was energetic. He jumped out early with a slew of presidential orders, executive actions to undo some things Trump had done, to get some other things in the process, stuff like getting into the Paris Climate Accord, to roll back some of the environmental legislation that Trump had blown up. Mike Donilon in the White House had put out a memo, and it was a memo for people, passed through the White House. The article I read, the author believed the memo was actually intended for the media, but the memo ended with the phrase, "The country is looking for action," and that's what's concerning some Democrats. Certainly progressives are frustrated with the slow pace that the Biden administration is going. There are people in the White House, obviously, who are frustrated at how slow the pace is going right now with the Biden White House. when Donilon's memo came out, there were only 32 session days left in the Senate before Biden hit his 100-day mark. I mean, that's barely over a month, 32 days left. And that was when the memo came out. That was a day or two ago. And as time passes, the next election approaches. That's other things Democrats have to be concerned about, because as the next election approaches, you have some Democrats who will be more hesitant to support legislation if they think it could hurt them in their re-election bids in their states. Another worry that Democrats have is the aging Senate. Patrick Leahy, a few weeks ago, was hospitalized. You have a lot of really old Democrats in the Senate. I mean, Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, is in her mid to late 80s. I mean, she's approaching 90 and still in office. I mean, she should have gotten out of office 15 years ago. And the Dems have a 10 vote majority in the House. The Senate, as I said, it's 50-50. The only way the Democrats have a majority in the Senate is that Vice President Kamala Harris gets to make the tie-breaking vote. And even with that 50-50 split, two of those 50 Democrats that they're counting are independents. You have Angus King from Maine and Bernie Sanders, of course, from Vermont. And they're both independents. They both caucus with the Democrats. And at any time, they could just choose to caucus with the Republicans, and then the Republicans would have a majority. So, I mean, there are things slowing Joe Biden down. You know, the reconciliation process is slower than just getting the votes you need if you have a large enough majority. Democrats lost seats in the House in the 2020 election. They captured seats in the Senate, but barely. I mean, it's 50-50, even with those two independents. And the thing is, if you are a Democrat Party supporter and you're hoping for better things in the future, I've got bad news for you. If Joe Biden remains at this slow a pace and is willing to negotiate and water down any legislation that Democrats propose, most likely in the midterms, the Democrats will lose the Senate and possibly the House. You know, Biden could end up seeing both houses go to Republican hands. I believe the Democrats have a favorable Senate matchup in the midterms. The House, it's every 2 years. Everybody's up for re-election. But right now, Joe Biden is behaving like sleepy Joe Biden, like low-energy Joe Biden. He really needs to get talking to the Democrats in the House and the Senate and tell them to just get the legislation passed. Bernie Sanders is slightly older than Joe Biden, but he's all about it. He's going and talking to cable news, and he's saying, let's get it passed, get it into the Senate, we'll get it through reconciliation. Another thing slowing the Democrats down is the $15 per hour minimum wage proposal that's in the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. And they're waiting on a decision from the Senate parliamentarian to determine whether or not that can be included in the package and passed with reconciliation. It's called the Byrd Rule. In order for something to pass through reconciliation in the Senate, it has to have a budgetary impact. The Senate Budget Committee Senate Budget Office has already said that a $15 per hour minimum wage increase would have a budgetary impact. But now it's up to the parliamentarian, some random person that nobody's ever heard of, nobody's ever voted for, that's going to make that decision. And Biden's already given up on it. Biden's already said it's the $15 per hour minimum wage is not going to be in there. in addition to waiting for the parliamentarian to make a decision, you also have Joe Manchin, you have Kirsten Sinema, who have both said they may oppose the $15 per hour minimum wage. One of the problems you have when the Senate is this close, when you have Democrats 50-50 with Republicans, only having a majority with the vice president's tie-breaking vote, people like Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin have a lot more power. They can make demands from the rest of the party, knowing that the party needs their vote. And right now, with the stimulus, that would be an awful thing for them to do. I don't know much about Sinema. She's the senator from Arizona. But Joe Manchin, I wouldn't put it past him. Joe Manchin is a weasel politician through and through. I mean, I don't understand why people in West Virginia keep voting for this guy. He's worthless as a Democrat. He might have some value if he was a Republican, but as a Democrat, he has no value. He's pointless. I mean, this guy soaks up fossil fuel money and is the biggest stopping point for the Democrats, unless they get more senators in the Senate to where they don't need Joe Manchin, which is a sad thing to say, that the party would be better off if they didn't need him at all. But right now they need him. They need all 50 votes, plus they need the vice president to make the tiebreaker. And Joe Biden doesn't seem to be lighting a fire up under anybody. And he needs to get on the ball. I mean, he talked a big game. Joe Biden talked like he was going to come out of the gates like FDR, that this moment called for, a massive reaction from the government. And if Joe Biden continues this slow walking everything through, he's not giving any kind of large immediate reaction. And what's going to happen is he's going to screw Democrats over in future elections. That's just the bottom line. I mean, not only do they need to have more votes than the Republicans, they've got to give people a reason to go out and vote. And if Democrat voters look at what you're doing and say, we're not really getting anything done, it don't matter if Democrats or Republicans are in charge, so why vote? Why go out and vote if nothing's going to get done anyway? If Joe Biden can't pass legislation without begging Republicans a couple of Republicans to vote for it. I understand Joe Biden talked a big game on unity. He wanted to bring the country together. But watering down your legislation to where it's a shell of what it should be, to talk a big game and say this moment of crisis demands a large response, and then to give a watered-down response because you had to make deals with your Republican buddies or you had to make deals with Joe Manchin, that's not going to excite Democrat voters. That's not going to excite people to go out and vote for you in the future. Whether Biden runs for re-election or whether he's a one-term-and-done old man and Kamala Harris runs for re-election from this administration, they've got to get something done. Just like the Donnellan from the White House said, the American people are looking for action. And right now they're getting a lot of inaction. Early on, Joe Biden seemed to have energy. He put out a lot of legislative actions, or not legislative, executive actions, executive orders, day after day. I mean, in the first 2 or 3 days, I think he put out around 30 executive orders. Way more than Trump, way more than Obama. And he was trying to do what he could do on his own without legislation. I mean, as people have said, he could have canceled student debt by now. The president can do that with a stroke of a pen. It's within his power. And I don't even, I mean, he's talked about canceling, I think, $10,000 of student debt. I don't know that that's going to happen. I mean, in the end, Joe Biden has been propped up for decades from credit card companies. Those were major donors of his when he was in the Senate. And alleviating debt from a portion of the country right now would help. Once we get the stimulus going, or once we get the vaccine going, once we get closer to herd immunity, and the economy is able to open up more, that's going to have more people with more money to go out and spend in the economy. It's going to get put back into the economy. And Joe Biden, I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. He's going too slow. He needs to pick it up. But that's the video for today. Joe Biden is, unfortunately, looking like the low-energy, sleepy Joe that he was criticized by Trump for being. I mean, if he doesn't want that moniker, he needs to wake up. Sorry, it's just the way it is.